What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction and back with some Phil Collins. Indeed, I am happy to update for those of you who saw my reaction to the remix of In the Air Tonight when I talked about having a Phil Collins CD that Michaela sent but it didn't rip correctly in my computer. She sent me another rip of the album or the compilation, and my understanding is that all the tracks work fine. So I'm very looking forward to going through this. Thank you again to Michaela and to those who commented on that remix of In the Air Tonight. And as I said in that reaction, the normal version of the track is indeed on this compilation, so I'm looking forward to that. I also noticed on the track listing there seems to be at least one or two covers. There's You Can't Hurry Love, which I know to be a Supremes tune, so I'm looking forward to hearing Phil take a crack at that. But the first tune on the compilation is actually one I know going back many years. I probably haven't heard it all that many times, but I've certainly heard it at least a few times, and that is Another Day in Paradise. And my understanding of the lyrics is that this relates to those who are down on their luck, the unhomed, the transient populations, and those who are dealing with the hardships of living in the modern world but without the resources or safety nets that sometimes can provide relief. So those who have a tougher daily life on multiple levels than many of us will ever thankfully know. And indeed, I think that's the essence of the title phrase, that, while they're going through, the struggle of trying to find their next meal, of worrying about if they're going to be, kicked out of where they're trying to sleep, or, finding a place of refuge or shelter, the rest of us are, enjoying movies and music and, meeting with friends, having social engagements, and generally living a quality of life that is far beyond what people in a tougher spot will know and experience daily. So yes, my recollection of the themes is that this relates to people living homeless, people living, out in the elements without a home, and thus those that have a daily experience of life that is in some ways just, brutal to even think about, never mind to live. So yeah, that's my recollection. I'm sure there's some lines in here that I'm not recalling and that may give a little more detail to that, or at least crystallize that concept. In any case, let's give it a listen. This is Phil Collins, Another Day in Paradise, the first tune on his Hits compilation. Don't remember this intro.
Seems embarrassed to be there. He can see she's been crying. She's got blisters on the soles of her feet. She can't walk, but she's trying. Oh, think twice, 'cause it's another day for you and me in paradise. Oh, think twice, it's just another day for you, you and me in paradise. Just think about it. Oh Lord, is there nothing more anybody can do? Oh Lord, there must be something you can say. You can tell from the lines on her face. You can see that she's been there. Probably been moved on from every place, 'cause she didn't fit in there. Oh, think twice, 'cause it's another day for you and me in paradise. Oh, think twice, it's just another day for you, you and me in paradise. Just think about it. Think about it. It's just another day for you and me in paradise. It's just another day for you and me in paradise. Just think about it. Just think about it.
Certainly a very powerful tune, and one where the Sonic character sounds reflective. It sounds like an emotional, what's the right word? Inventory, like asking someone to look inside themselves. The Sonics really give off that sort of atmosphere, and indeed, that's the essence of what he's saying. Like, think about it and acknowledge this is happening. And one aspect that is central to the theme of the tune, which I wasn't thinking about in advance, is the idea of those of us who are better off and who might be in a position to help, even if in just a marginal way, or perhaps more significantly, in some cases, people would rather not face that brutal reality. Indeed, I reacted to, what is it called? It's a Pet Shop Boys tune. I think the word "the theater" is, or the phrase "the theater" is in the title. But that one got at the same issue, that for some people, it makes you confront the disparities, the inequalities, and the brutality of life in the modern world, in modern cities, and so on. And because that can make you feel uncomfortable or on some level culpable, not that everyone is responsible for homelessness and so on. And of course, that very concept has all manner of nuances, including, economic misfortune, mental health, and many others. But sometimes it's easier just, I don't want to think about that. I'm going to, step over this person who asked if I have a spare dollar or whatever, and I'm just going to keep walking. I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to look back, because that's not my problem, and I'd rather not be made uncomfortable or feel like somehow I'm not being generous, because again, that's someone else, that's someone else's life, it's someone else's fault that they're in that position to begin with, and that's not my fault. I'm not obligated to find the solution. And I think this song is asking us to take stock, to consider the humanity that is evident in these other people, and to maybe consider that you shouldn't just be stepping over, walking by, whistling, and hoping like, oh, I just can't wait till I get home and I don't have to think about this anymore, and maybe not turning a blind eye to what's happening. So definitely think twice. The idea of like, if you're inclined to just speed past someone who's asking you for $1, or for saying like, hey, do you know anywhere I can go? I've been sleeping outside, to maybe treat them like a human, respond to them. If you can, be generous. If you can, send them in the direction of an institution or an organization that might help. And again, obviously there are differences between individual homeless people, and some, again, are dealing with mental health issues and so on, where it's not just a lack of economic wherewithal. But yes, I think it's a very admirable song ethically and emotionally, and I think the emotional character very much comes across, and the real world examples, the templates that are being suggested here, someone who you can tell, they're outside in the sun all the time, their face is weathered, it looks like they haven't gotten a clean pair of clothes in a long time, or their feet show signs of injury, or something that was never taken care of. They have blisters on their hands or their feet. I feel like if you've been in not just big cities, I suppose big cities are where you tend to see a lot of homelessness relative to other places, but in smaller towns and villages even, you can and do see this type of unfortunate reality. So again, if you've seen people in that state, if you've known someone who's in that state, and in that case it definitely is a song that will have an extra layer of ringing home and feeling the emotional depth of it. If you've seen or known people in those situations, then you'll know that some of the visual templates being suggested here are all too true, unfortunately. So again, a powerful song. I think Phil sounds great vocally. It's not like the biggest vocal performance I've heard from him. It's not the most intense in terms of his belting, but I think he hits the emotional tenor of the song and his vocals perfectly. So as I said, I'm very much looking forward to going through this now with a I was going to say correct, that's not the right word, now with a proper ripping of the album. And once again, big thank you to Michaela and to those who are interested in Phil and who will be commenting here. As I mentioned in that reaction to the In the Air Tonight remix, I know him very little. I know a few tunes, including the one that we started with. Luca, don't do that. Please don't do that. As well as a little bit of his work with Genesis, although in that case it's literally just like 2 or 3 songs, so most of his catalog is unknown to me. I'm looking forward to hearing more. As I said, I have my eye on that, I'm assuming, cover of the Supremes tune, but there's 2 more between now and then, so looking forward to it all. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.